Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. I'm not gonna lie, I don't actually remember what part we are on. Maybe 5, 4, 5, something like that. So in today's episode, we're gonna be making a health system, but it's not gonna be as simple, you're at 100 health, you get hit, you're at 10. Because this is a survival game where you're gonna have creatures that may attack you, you may get, you may have fall damage, something like that. We're gonna want different parts of our body to be hit. Now, this is going to be set up quite simple, but it's going to look more complex than it actually is. I made this system just for this course or lessons or tutorials, whatever you'd like to call it, and hopefully I don't mess it up too much. Now, it's going to look very messy, but we're going to try our absolute best to keep it organized. Now, we're going to need to start in the first person character, but what we're going to do is I have got this on my other screen because it is quite complex. So if you see me going on and off screen, don't worry, it is just because I will be checking to make sure this is done right. In today's lesson, we're going to be using a lot of variables. We're going to be using quite a lot of functions, and we're also going to be doing some UI work just like we did with the stats bar, but we're going to make it so the health one actually corresponds. So let's get into it. The first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to set up some variables. These variables will be used to define what health we actually have, what parts can be hurt, and so on. So there's going to be a few categories for this, to be fair. It's going to be quite a lot. So if you need to pause the video and go back, there's no shame in that at all. Let's just get straight into it. And bearing in mind, I may make mistakes through this video, so just make sure to watch through the whole thing just to make sure if something doesn't work, then you can always double check that you've got everything right. And if it still doesn't work, go down to the comments and I will try my best to aid you as much as I can. So let's get started. So how we're going to do this is we are going to have an overall health, but we're going to have health for 6 different limbs. We're going to have the head, the torso, the left and right arm, and the left leg and right leg. So let's get to creating those. So firstly, we're going to need a max health because we're going to need to define what our maximum health actually is. And I just realized I'd done this wrong because we're using the name convention with an underscore. So we're going to make sure these are all floats, by the way, because we want them to work with the UI, and we're going to try keep them as similar to each other as we can. So we're going to create the max health, and we're going to set this to 600. Now you may think, why 600? That's a lot, but you'll see very soon. We're going to create a category called health values. We're going to create a health values because we're going to have some booleans in here as well. Now we're going to create a new one called current health. No, we're going to call it overall health. You can call it current health, but I'm going to call it overall health because we're going to need some current healths for the different limbs. Again, add that to our health values. And our overall health, we'll set that on every frame. So once we have those, we have the main ones like the max health and the overall health, but we're going to need a way to actually have these like affected by another number. So we're going to need 6 variables here, so just bear with me while I make these. So the first one we're going to have is head health, and we're going to set that one to 100, and we're going to change these to a new category, and let's say we'll call them limb health values, because we want to keep this organized, remember, as much as we can for this part. And now we want to try duplicate these so they'll all be the same. So head health, and then the next one will be torso underscore health. We'll duplicate that one. We'll call this one, we will say L underscore arm underscore health, because the L will stand for left arm, and then we'll do a duplicate and we will save it as right arm. We'll duplicate this one and call this L underscore leg underscore health, and we'll call this one We didn't duplicate, we should probably duplicate just so it all stays the exact same. r_leg_health. So now we have all our health values. They should all be set to 100 and they should all be in the category. So we now have these done. We have the max health, overall health, and all the limbs. So we're going to need to use a node called event tick. Now a lot of people don't like this node because this node will run on every single frame it can, because that's what it does. It runs off every tick. So right click and do tick, but we're just gonna use it for this tutorial just so we can get it working. We may change it in the future, but if we do, don't worry, I will do a video on it. Now off of event tick, we're gonna need to call a function, but we don't have this function yet. So let's create one. Let's go to functions, add a new function, and we will say, or we will call it calculate underscore overall underscore health, or calculate whatever. That's my friend reacting to the new Battlefield 6 game, because I played it earlier and he wants to play it when he is back from work. So back to the video. We'll do calculate overall health, and now in this all we need to do is we need to do quite a big operation. This is going to be messy, and before you run down to the comment section if you're a pro in Unreal Engine, just remember this is a beginner friendly tutorial, because we don't want to make it too complex. Like, there will be different ways to do this, but we're gonna just do this in a simple way where it's easy to read and it makes sense. Okay, so firstly what we're going to do is we're going to drag the overall health into the pin here. That will get the set health. We're going to give it some space, and we're going to now drag each and every one of these limb healths into the event graph or function. So that's every single limb. The reason we're doing 6 limbs is because it just makes the most sense. You can get different effects for each of them, and the reason we're separating them is so we can have those different effects very easily. But we now have all of these. Now you may think, but we can't just plug these straight into here, and you're right, we can't, because then it would just set to 100. So what we actually want to do is we want to drag off the top one and go add. So you'd see we actually can only plug one in, and then you'd think, oh, maybe we need to add. No, you can actually click add pin. So we're going to add 5 of these. I've just opened a C++ symbol. If you accidentally do that like me, call yourself an idiot like I do and just ignore it. So drag all of these into each pin, so then it looks a bit like this. Going to move it over a little bit just so we get a bit more space. And now we're going to drag off of this and search clamp float. Now we did use a clamp float before, and I believe it may have been in, yeah, no, it would have been in our, there was a place we used clamp float, and oh no, it was in our sprinting, wasn't it? Yes, we used the clamp float down here. So it's exactly going to work the same. We're going to have the value, which is this, the health, all these health bars combined, and we're going to have a minimum and a maximum. Now remember, we don't like magic numbers, so the maximum health will go into max. Minimum obviously is a magic number, but because it's 0, it's got a bit more of an exception, just because like 0 isn't like an exact number. Like 176 obviously would then be a magic number, and you'd then need a reason for it. So now we have this clamp, we're going to plug that into overall health. Now we have all of these different health values, but we need a way to call it. So let's head back to our event graph, and we'll go to event tick. This is where this node comes in. This is where we call calculate overall health. Now what this will do is every single frame, it will add all of these values to make sure it stays the same and sets the health. So we're going to have different effects throughout the game that we will set up later. So for example, if your left leg gets below 10, then it gets broken. If it goes below, let's say it gets below 25, then it gets sprained. So or fractured or something like that, where it'll then slow walking speed. Arms will slow crafting speed, and head may make you go blind or dizzy or concussion. Torso may decrease your hunger more, decrease your thirst more, and also it may even make you ragdoll sometimes. So that is our main system setup, but we're going to also want a way to show this on um, the view, like the actual game. Now, I will be honest with you guys, I did not actually set this up in my test one, so we're going to wing it and hope for the best. If it goes wrong, don't worry, we will fix it later. So what we're going to do is we're going to get %, and then we're going to get the create binding, which obviously we created last time. We went into the designer and we selected the health bar and we created this, and now we just want to get a binding for that. So we're going to drag across here, and we can actually go to our stamina and we can copy these values here, just like so. Just so we don't have to keep casting. We can make a reference or a variable to these different values or to this cast, so we don't have to keep calling it. However, we're not going to do that for now, and because we may actually change these bars later, so if we do that later we can make a reference. Now once we have this, we can now drag off of it and we can search for get overall health. Now if you remember what we did in here, we got the current stamina and set it in here, but obviously we need to actually do this one. So this was for the text, this was for the percentage, and so we now need to get the maximum health, so get max health, and we need to now not do that, we need to now put these here and go divide. So when we divide, just like so, we can now slap this one into here, and hopefully that will now update when we go in. So see, that's gone to 600, so we can sprint, all that stuff, all that goodness. And yeah, so we're going to want to add some more damage features later, but as the time being, we're just going to set up the text for their health. So we're going to go over to designer, and we might as well just copy this, we might as well duplicate it. And what we'll do is we'll call this one health health amount. And because it's going to be 600, we might as well set it to 600. And what we'll do is we will grab this, we'll zoom in a little bit, and we will copy these values here. So if you right click on these, go to copy all properties, head over to health amount and paste all. It'll go exactly there, but now we just want to change the position Y, up towards the health. There you go. And what we'll do is we'll round this to 238, would it be? No, minus 238. Like so. Now that's there. And now that should be able to be bound in the thingy. So let's bind it, create a new binding, spread this out a little bit. And again, we'll go back here, copy and paste the cast. Again, like I said, we will make that later, so we don't have to keep doing this. And then we will go get overall health, plug that into the return value, go into there, and let's just spread this out just so it looks a bit nicer. We go in here, we start the game, and it's now saying 600. So we now have created the health system. We haven't created any damage yet. We haven't created any like evaluation of the damage, no effects yet. But don't worry, we will get to that very soon. I'm just going to leave it here because it's already at a 14-minute recording, and I don't want to make these episodes too long. I want it so you guys can have a little bit of progression every now and then you have nice safe spaces to stop and take a breather. So guys, thank you for watching this video. I hope you guys did enjoy, and I will see you in the next video.